Good morning, everyone, and namaste. It is a glorious morning, and I thought today I would just chat a little bit about my start in astrology and how I view astrology and the astrology journey in general. So this is going to be super loose. I don't really have a lot of content here, but it's just a general chat about what I think astrology is and where it can lead us. So for me, I started astrology or started learning about astrology because I needed it because it wasn't a great time in my life. And I just truly needed a North Star, literally a North Star for me to find my way. As in, as I was reaching into my 30s and gradually going into my 40s, it just felt like I wasn't able to be on track with my own expectations of who I should be. There's a huge gap between who I thought I should be versus my understanding of what makes me the happiest at that time. And actually, there's a third point. Uh, there was a big difference between what I was expecting to happen in my life versus what actually makes me happy. So there's that gap between what was happening in my life what was happening in my life compared to what I thought would make me happy, and also compared to what actually would make me happy. And I was completely unconscious of, because, as we know, a lot of the time societal values and familial values and just mainstream values can guide, not even guiding, but just push us, compels us towards a certain track. And when our actual personal constitution is in alignment with that mainstream track, it's great. There's no issue there, but mine just happens to not be that. So I was really, really suffering. So that's how that was my start in astrology, when I felt like everything was just disintegrating around me, and I couldn't find a way around things. So this is how I always pictured it. It was like, when I held uh, deep mainstream values to be true. And when I say mainstream, I mean mainstream in my own terms, as Asian American, being brought up in Asia and then immigrated to the States. There are two sets of values which are both true in my case. But when I say mainstream, I mean a conglomeration of mainstream Asia, mainstream ethnic Chinese, and mainstream American. So both actually hold true for me in terms of mainstream ideals. So holding both ideals into adulthood, I had sort of an arbitrary set of star map where I navigated per those stars. My North Star was oriented towards a certain cultural value, as well as societal value, as well as, dare I say, more personal values. But I would say those are more based on the cultural and the societal. And those set of values worked really, really well for me in my 20s. And it gave me purpose, it gave me meaning, it gave me something to work for. But as I started to move towards family, move towards, wanting family, wanting a partner, wanting kids and all that, just experiences fell short. It didn't feel fulfilling. And things started to crumble. I wasn't understanding why I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't understanding why things didn't work out for me. And so I fell into a period of darkness. And when I say darkness, it wasn't along the lines of depression. It wasn't about just feeling down right away. I had the fight in me. I still had the fight and the passion for life. I don't want to waste this life. I want to get it right. I want to be able to be of service to the world. I actually want to contribute to the world. I love humanity so much, and I love everybody so much. I just love so much that I really want this to work. And yet, it's just for some reason, it wasn't. These things that I were chasing, in terms of partnership, in terms of, having a boyfriend, uh, going through the motions of relationship and imagining myself, projecting myself into marriage, so on and so forth. It it just felt so like it was a natural dream in my head. It was just such a natural thing for me to equate that dream, equate that projection as normalcy. It's just like the birds and the bees. It's just what we're supposed to do. It's supposed to come at the right time, and then I'm just supposed to have a family at the right moment and then carry on with life and the circle of life in under the right circumstances with a natural flow. And when that didn't happen, I was completely shocked, with all my passion for life and all my love for life itself. I was completely shocked when what I thought life was supposed to be didn't happen. It was shock. So back to the darkness. So the darkness was like the North Stars, or the stars that society gave me and my culture gave me, or cultures, both cultures ring true. The Asian and the American both rang true for me. And they gave me stars, right? It's like connecting the dots. They gave me dots to connect. And when for some reason, life circumstances, whatever it was, it felt like I wasn't allowed to connect them. Just those points, those reference points just didn't work for me. So it's as if there were no more stars for me to connect, as I was going towards the 40s. And it felt like my time was running out. I felt like those stars, those uh, points for me to connect, were also fading away from my existence. So that's what I meant by my world felt dark, as in I no longer had reference points for me to gauge if I'm on the right track or not, because according to mainstream society, I was already not on the right track. Um, my career wasn't really at a good place. My personal relationships fell away. Intimate relationships fell away. And even relationship with my family was strained, with my family origin was strained, because things were not coming together in other areas of my life. And I was having a hard time putting these pieces together. And so that also affected, of course, the Asian family, it's hard to talk about that, to talk about these struggles, these really personal struggles and cultural struggles and life, just life struggles with a very traditional family. So I was struggling with family. at that point as well. So all of those factors together, it made me feel like my North Star was gone. I didn't have a North Star in my life, nothing to shoot for. So I've had to find a new purpose, a new meaning to life. And I didn't even, I don't want to say I don't know, I didn't even know how to start, but I really tried to to read. I went on spiritual retreats. I did a lot of self work to try to figure out what this is. And eventually, I somehow, I think it's through synchronicity. Eventually, I found a YouTube video of Stephen Forrest. I would say he is my um, astrological grandfather. I don't dare to call him my astrological or he is my starting astrology teacher for sure, but he feels like a grandfather to me. That's the energy that I feel with him. There were many, many others after him, which I would call them my teachers as well, but he's just this astrology rock star that I respect him so much. And I see him as an astrology grandfather. And I definitely have his lineage in the way that I look at charts, because he really is my founding father for my journey in astrology. So for some reason, I saw one of his YouTube videos online and YouTube, and it just clicked. It just resonated so, 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 so much in terms of um, some of the karmic tendencies that I was able to see myself go through. And it was amazing that he was able to describe my chart and describe my experiences just so close to my felt reality, my felt sense of reality. And so that's how I got into astrology. I said it in the website, it was out of a sense of desperation. Like I have nowhere else to turn. There was no other system available anymore to explain to me why I was experiencing the things that I was experiencing. And only astrology was complex enough. It's extremely complicated and extremely simple at the same time. But it is a system that is complex enough where it was able to give me an understanding of why things happen the way they happen, and actually where I can go with all of it. So I started to find the stars again. And this time is actually in alignment with my true constitution. It's in alignment with my soul and spirit. It's in alignment with my purpose, what I'm actually here to do and what I'm actually here to express as a human being. And even what I'm here to practice, the things that I didn't do right, or I didn't get to try, I didn't get to experience, or I skipped in the many, 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 past life experiences, and what I'm supposed to practice now, I'm able to see it very, very extremely clearly in my birth chart, in my chart. And so it gave me a new set of reference points to navigate my life. And I want to make this clear that astrology isn't about belief that, whoa, this is real, this is true. They're um there are astrologers who argue it this way, and it's valid. I'm not saying it's not. And they argue it in terms of, I think it's a Vedic astrology where the astrological system holds true because at the time of your birth, the planetary alignment is as such that the electromagnetic energies of these planets will influence the electromagnetic energies of Earth and where you were born at that time, accordingly to where all the planets are during that moment of your birth. And you would be sort of branded, influenced, not only influenced, but branded, molded. It's almost like, dough pushing through a mold. You would be branded in that sense, or colored in the spectrums that were the conglomeration of Earth and all the other planets, the planetary spectrums. So in that sense, it makes sense. You could argue for the authenticity of astrology in that sense, but I don't personally take that view. The truth is, I don't know if astrology is true. I don't know if, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronomer. I'm just someone who was able to use astrology and find stability in my life and find structures that help me have a more meaningful life because of astrology. And it does not require belief. I don't believe that we need to believe in astrology as a real thing in order to use astrology to help us on this journey. For me, it's not about belief. You don't need to believe it to use a certain structure to help you get to what you want. So for me, astrology is one way of scaffolding your life so that you have the structure to climb from point A to point B to point C to explore this world. Because imagine if life really is dark space, as in there no relativity, life would seem meaningless. So what astrology is for me is just points to give you a sense of relativity so that your life would have meaning, that your life can be grounded in a sense of meaning, that you would be able to build your life with the sense of meaning. And that takes relativity. So astrology gives that relativity, and that's all it is. So I have to say there are people who naturally, maybe they're able to resonate with the mainstream very, very well, resonate with their family's point of view and societal point of views very, very well, and they're able to integrate their life in the mainstream very, very well. For those people, they have enough reference points in their lives to ground themselves and have relativity with those points of references. that they really do not need astrology. Astrology comes in handy only when you feel like you are ungrounded and you need that relativity. So it's, for me, it's not about truth. Astrology is not the capital T truth. It's still the relative small t. It's sort of, it's a practical art to me. It is not, I'm going to offend a lot of astrologers. I don't see it as a science per se. And I'm not saying it's pseudoscience. It's not that either. It's not this, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. What it is for me simply is a system of relativity, a system of um, orientation that is able to allow us to explore life in a more meaningful way. It creates meaning when we have a hard time grasping meaning. This is when the magic of astrology happens. So if someone is deep and actually doing very well in the mainstream, they're not going to be attracted to astrology because there really is no need. And from my standpoint, they would, I wouldn't even recommend it to them because how they're doing things just very naturally is working out. It's when you feel like you need guidance, you need structure in life. You need that extra layer of relativity because the system of relativity where your family point at you to, society point at you to, even the political environment point at you to wasn't working. It is only at that point that for most people, it's at that point that you would actually want to go into astrology. So I just want to make that clear that even with me, it's not a belief. There's nothing to believe there in astrology. It's a very practical system to help us orient our life, to bring more meaning into our lives. And, and that is it. So let me see. So I wanted to talk about walking the 5 stages of astrology, because as I go into astrology more and more, I realize that there's so many levels, and it's almost like comparative literature where there's so many levels or so many ways to deconstruct a system, so many ways to construct the story, deconstruct the story, make meaning out of the story. And as I went into the astrology journey more and more, I realized that there's stages of how I see astrology as I go into the study more and more, and now I'm into practice. It's gotten me even deeper. So I said here, the deeper you go, the more you realize that astrology isn't the destination, but a journey to awakening and expanding consciousness. At the end of the day, as you practice astrology more and more, you realize that we are not just the chart. We are not only the planets on the chart. We are actually the space that holds the chart. We are the emptiness, the space that holds the chart. And we call that consciousness in New Age and spirituality. We are the consciousness that is able to hold the experience of the chart. So that is the conclusion. But let me just go through walking the 5 stages of astrology. So stage 1, this is how we all start. There crisis happens in life, and then something propels us to learn more about astrology, to go into astrology. So we start learning astrology to know more about ourselves. And that's very natural, and it leads to number 2, the utilization of self. We learn astrology to be able to, I'll put it in a very mundane sense, to learn about our weaknesses and strengths, to learn about our pros and cons, to learn about our characteristics, constitutions, what we're good at and what we're not, and where we would do better in our professional careers, and how we might better contribute to the world, contribute to our family, contribute to our own self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-care. So it's about the self. It's to know enough about ourselves to be able to utilize the system to our own maximum benefit, as well as the wider world's maximum benefit. So it's practical. So you learn to utilize your chart for self mastery, and you're using the chart, actively using the chart for self mastery. So you'll find that most astrologers, and I teach and discuss astrology on this level, on this more of a practical, utilitarian, materialistic. Materialistic is not a bad thing, because it roots us in the manifested world, in the material world. That's actually very, very good. Jupiter actually exalts in the 4th house of family. So the highest form of Jupiter, which is spirituality, is actually being able to take care of your family. And that includes not only spiritual terms, not only in terms of meaning and purpose, and taking care of your family emotionally, but it means on a material level as well. So, how do we get spiritual when we are materially and financially in lack? So absolutely, it's just the point of astrology is also about financial gains, because it allows a foundation for spirituality. That is absolutely true and not denied in astrology. It's not all about the frou-frou. The connection to spirituality isn't frou-frou, but it's not all about connection to spirituality. So almost all of us astrologers, we will teach and discuss astrology on this level, the practical level, because beyond it, I said it becomes an inward journey, and only you will know the bliss that comes from direct experience. So beyond this level, as you practice more of astrology, you get to know the planets, and you get to know, excuse me, the space in between planets. And, excuse me, still morning, I'm having coffee. Cheers to you. So it also points to our potentiality that exists in between our natal chart planetary positions, placements. Because, as I was reading for I don't want to say older, age is nothing these days. So as I was reading people who have a little more experience in life, and you compare their experience with their birth chart, you will find that sometimes, actually a lot of the times, they have adapted just intuitively. They understood through trial and error, trials and tribulations in life, where they are supposed to move towards. And when I point out sort of what they're supposed to practice in order to have more meaning and more contentment and more satisfaction in life, most of the times they are already on that track. And even some of the times they have, just through intelligence, connection with their own spirituality, their own spirit, that they have developed points in their charts where there are no planetary indications that they would have accomplishments in that placement. So that tells me that every point in the chart, all the characteristics of the signs, all the characteristics of the houses, we get to practice in this lifetime. And this leads to a very interesting thing. I would say it's a fact by now, where it is almost virtually impossible to read the charts of ascended masters, of those who have expanded their consciousness, have an expanded awareness of their spiritual self, that they do not live by their chart anymore. And notice this, in the beginning, their lives would still be in alignment with the karma that is lined up with their charts. Really interesting. But when they have that spiritual connection, when they have the spiritual awareness, consciousness, understanding, they burn through their karmas much faster. They can burn through what they're supposed to experience, given what's seen in their charts, within the first quarter or within the first 10, 12, 15 years of their charts. Those especially in India or in China, in Tibet, the spiritual corners of the world, you have these child's ascended masters. I forgot what they're called, where they go through their karma so quickly, sort of just within the first couple of years of their life, and then they're able to offer that extreme clarity afterwards. Just as a teenager, they're able to offer extreme clarity from the spiritual perspective, that they're able to already create new karmas and live out new karmas within their life. And then they pass to the next lifetime with a karmic balance, which means they no longer need to come back and balance out the karma. So that's why for spiritual masters, ascended masters who have self-actualized, you can't read their charts, because you can read their charts for the first part of their lives, where they're still under the influence of the chart, which is basically past karma, past conditioning, and what is that word? Sort of a sense of characteristics that is endowed to them at the time of birth. But again, they see through it so quickly that they're able to do all sorts of things. They're able to reverse it. They're able to burn it. They're able to release it, transcend it, transmute it, just like that. For most of us, we get to that point when we're a lot more experienced. For some of us, not even towards the end of our lives are we able to do this. But for, again, the masters, the reason why the charts become moot is because they transmute past karmas right away upon this reincarnation. And then they're able to create new ones and balance it off before they leave again. And at that point, they don't have to come back if they don't want to. They can go to other dimensions, other spiritual realms if they want to. So it's really interesting, isn't it? Where that is what you eventually see. I'm going to come back to the 5 stages. That is what you eventually see when you read enough charts and you've seen how people utilize charts, where there are those who they just have the expanded consciousness, and more people are being born with natural expanded consciousness, because that's where the entire human race is going. So especially the new generation, they have this new understanding and direct connection to spirit, that they're not here to only live their charts. They're here to expand the consciousness so they're able to utilize the karmic forces of every single point in the chart and in every single house. So the new generation, again, like some of the teenage ascendant masters these days, the spiritual teachers, the young spiritual teachers these days, they're able to see through karma, burn through karma, transmute karma very fast. And then in the future, astrology is going to be moot, because they would not be living their conditioned self. They would not be looping in the conditioned self just within the chart. So, this is my uranium projection, that in the future, our next generations are going to develop something that is beyond the astrological system that we use today. Just because the burning of the karma is going to be faster, they're going to have to develop a new system. I don't even know what that is. They have to develop a new system where it assists their exploration of life, of consciousness on an even higher level. It is absolutely beyond how we're using astrology today. But for our purpose, for the level of consciousness, our collective consciousness at this point, the astrology chart is still a great tool to see where we are still playing the old tapes, where we're still going round and around and around with our conditionings, our karmic conditionings that are going in loops. And even if you don't believe in karma, that's fine. It's just conditionings. It's just innate orientations that somehow get stuck in the loop when we're not conscious of it. Because when we are conscious of it, then the transmutation is possible. And many, many traditions, religious, spiritual traditions, does teach us having enough awareness to be able to transmute addictions, transmute negative cycles, transmute habits that gets us stuck in the mud. So eventually, this is this is why we use astrology at this point, so that we could release the anchors that hold us down from expanding in awareness, from expanding in consciousness. And this is sort of going on a tangent, but the key really isn't to resist the karma. The key really is to burn through. Most of us, we need to burn through the karma, meaning really to just sit with it, be with it, have self-compassion towards it. And practice unconditional love. It comes down to that. A lot of the time, seeing is transmutation. This goes back to when Buddha was on the verge of enlightenment, and Mara, or the Buddhist version of the devil, came to see him with all these, beautiful ladies, naked ladies, and wanting to tempt the Buddha, or Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha, out of the enlightened state, because he's just almost there. And the Buddha looked at Mara and looked at all these wonderful, illusory, naked ladies, right? And he just looked at them, looked at Mara, and said, Mara, I see you, the devil, I see you. I see you, you hear. And he smiles. I'm not telling the story right, I'm sure, but it's heavily paraphrased. But the point being that the Buddha doesn't resist Mara, doesn't resist devil. He doesn't resist, all the wonderful illusions that he's seeing, the desires, blah, blah, blah. He sees it, recognizes it. He recognizes Mara. Says, Mara, you're here. You're a friend. You're here. That's what it takes for transmutation, to not deny it, to simply see it in equanimity, being open to it. I wouldn't even say you have to welcome it. It's being open to it and still be at center with love itself. Just recognizing, devil's here. Hello, devil. Mara is here. Hello, Mara. The addiction is there. Hello, addiction. How are you? Darkness is there. Depression. How are you, darkness? Hello, depression. How are you? So it's something like that. So eventually that's the use of astrology, to be conscious of where our Mara lies, of where our devil lies, of where the conditionings lie, the addictions lie, so that we see and we embrace, and we allow in love and in compassion. And so eventually, that allows us to be even more connected with our spirituality. And it's not like, oh, it's correct. It's a correct thing to connect to our spirituality. It's not about what's right, what's wrong. Like, oh, if you're smart, if you're a good person, then you should want to reach spiritual enlightenment because that's what you're supposed to do. It's not that. It's just a sense of connectedness. The point is a sense of internal connectedness, being able to feel that connection to love as we go through this life, and that is it. It's just about that sense of connectedness, because conditionings, past conditionings, negative conditionings, even negativity bias, and addictions, they create separations where we are disconnected from love. We're disconnected to satisfaction, contentment. And that's why we use astrology, is to be able to face those conditionings, to see clearly, to have a clarity of those conditionings. And that's why we move towards spirituality, not because it's right, not because it's the moral thing to do, not because, God will punish us if we don't, Buddha will punish us if we don't. It's to be able to live in an energy, the vibration of love, contentment, enjoyment, purpose, meaning, satisfaction, that we move towards the spiritual higher grounds, that we move towards expanding consciousness. Okay, so back to stage 3, awareness of self is one. So as we read enough charts, we're going to realize that all of us share the oneness that we call common humanity. And this is where, once you get into astrology, you start researching astrology, and you see a bunch of charts, you just realize that we all have Maras in our lives. We all have our personal devils, our personal our challenges, what we're here to learn, what we're here to the conditions that we're here to burn through, to transmute. If you have a chart, there is something. And then the understanding of oneness becomes innate, because you simply have enough experience in seeing charts, reading charts, where you just simply see the common humanity, and you won't be able to help but develop compassion and have compassion for every single person. It is an inevitable results. And I even would say reward of learning astrology and reading charts, is that you simply will have automatic compassion for all people, because you see the commonality. It's just, you see the common humanity. And so stage 4, awareness of self as projection. So you learn enough of the planetary workings to conclude all of us are projected from the wholeness that is the universe or God. So this is sort of trying to see that we are the space, we are the consciousness, where our tendencies, our conditionings, our natal charts emerge. So the awareness rises that we are simply projections of the universe. It's getting a little esoteric and abstract, I understand, but it's just a natural progression of learning astrology and looking at the charts. You start to see all of us as just projections of this great, wondrous, and mysterious universe. And some of us, we call it God. I'm more rooted in the Buddhist tradition, but I talk to God. I feel like God for me is just the universe, is just what is. And so we realize we're just emanations of consciousness trying to know itself. Eventually, you see it and you start to interpret charts as in all of us as explorers of consciousness who are here to take certain roles, to be able to understand, to expand consciousness through seeing how we can evolve those roles. What we can do with it's almost like, okay, we're given lemons in our charts. And don't worry, all of us are given lemons in our charts. It's not only particular to a select few. All of us in our own ways are given lemons. Why? So that we can explore what we can do with lemons. Or maybe, some of us get strawberries, some of us get blueberries, some of us get this, some of us get that. But eventually it's you see that you're here to explore what you can do with the set of circumstances that you've been given. And the experiential wisdom eventually contributes to the collective awareness, contributes to consciousness itself, starting to understand itself as consciousness. So we're all spiritual explorers in that sense. We're all explorers of consciousness in that sense. Like we're the fingertips of God. We're the fingertips of the universe, the universal consciousness. We're at the edge where we want to expand to see where the stream can go. It is consciousness dreaming where the stream can go. And we eventually report back to where the experience gets pulled back to the overall experience, the overall collective experience. And some of the psychics, they read Akashic record, right? So it's all of our experiences go back to the Akashic record and becomes recorded in consciousness. And so this is something that as you learn astrology, this becomes automatic. The awareness of self as projection. And then stage five, which we touched on in stage 4 a little bit, awareness of no self. So your understanding of life expands, your consciousness expands, and naturally you can just intuit there is no self in the first place. And then because you realize there's no self in the first place, there's freedom to surrender to life, to creativity, to love, and to simply be of service to the moment and not be grasping towards the future. I mean, I'm just guilty. I still do that. I would revert back to number 2 and number 1, needing to, again, just remind myself that this is, we're privileged to be able to be given this dream, this projection of a physical body to explore what's possible for the expansion of consciousness. I mean, we're also privileged to be here in the physical body. But, I still forget sometimes that it's not all that serious, and I still want to project a future. And I forget that, I am all set if I just serve this moment in the now. Just like I'm right now, as I am recording and talking, it's my mind going over to, oh my God, what am I going to do for lunch? And what I'm going to do with my work, my professional work. What am I going to do with this and that? Or what am I going to do with my website? Like, no, it's right here. What's called for me to do right here, right now is to share what astrology is to me, how I started in astrology and what it is to me, and how I see people using this and how we see it could aid some of us, doesn't have to be everybody. It could potentially aid some of us to gain more satisfaction in life, to feel more connected in life. And this is me serving this moment. And again, I'm able to do this right now because for some reason, just through learning astrology, I'm able to see life as just a projection, an experiment, exploration of the greater conscious mind, of the greater consciousness, and that there really is no self, or I'll put this in another way, where all uh, ideas of the self, all are projections of the self, all of the mental understandings of who I am. As in, when I'm in, if I were to introduce myself to somebody, first meeting, my name is Elin Shea, and I do this professionally, or I'm an architect professionally, and I'm also an astrologer professionally, and I um, I have my own firm, my own office, and I do this, and my hobbies are, and I love yoga, I love meditation, love going out in nature, I love walks, and I love the symphony. Um, all true. And I love going to the opera and ballet. I love the arts. I love impressionist paintings, and I like being punctual. I hate it when people are late. I hate it when I'm late. And I say what I do and do what I say, blah, 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 blah. I mean, these all sound very normal. These are labels that all of us will have, and they are true, but eventually you realize that these are just projections, that they're not the big T truth, and that all my likes and dislikes are illusions. I'm not saying to become an ascetic and go to the mountains and just be no self and just perish away. I'm not saying to go for chocolate milk when you hate chocolate milk. It's that the fact that you hate chocolate milk is an illusion. It's a dream. You're dreaming that you hate chocolate milk. I'm dreaming that I love the ballet. I'm dreaming that I love coffee in the morning. I'm dreaming that I love stargazer lilies. I'm dreaming that this is my office. I'm dreaming that this is my body. It's a dream. You start because of astrology, it just automatically, it's amazing system where it automatically gives you the intuition, the understanding that our likes and dislikes and who we think we are projections. And therein lies the beauty. Because that understanding, again, brings you the freedom to surrender to this moment only, when we're embracing life, embracing creativity and love, and again, to just be of service in the moment. So I hope this gives you a taste of what the astrology journey can be like. As of right now, I'm not selling services. I'm not trying to get people to sign up for anything. I have such passion for it. I just really want to share, and I'm continuing to research on a multiple of subjects, including real estate timing and, really mundane subjects. And I'm also interested in relationship timing. A lot of timings I'm interested in, as well as other, again, more practical techniques to help us with the stage 2, more of the materialistic stage 2. because it's an important stage as well to really, be able to feel safe, even though it's a projected universe. It's there is no self, right? That this is all illusory. The body is illusory, money is illusory, but it's important to also feel a sense of uh, a relative safety and security, even if it's just a dream. So, I'm continuing to just uh, do research to see what actually works as techniques, what do not work as techniques. I want to know what actually benefits all of us, again, so that we could be in this moment to celebrate life, love, to celebrate each other, to feel more connected and satisfied. And that is the ultimate. So again, just like with a lot of the videos, people like to end with um, a short blurb of uh, what they're trying to launch, but just I'm not launching anything at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll see, but this is just me sharing why is it that I am passionate about astrology and how astrology has helped me orient myself in this world. So I hope that was informational. I don't know if that's going to be helpful for you on your astrology journey, but I hope that was at least interesting, entertaining, and maybe thought provoking, hopefully inspiring as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close there. And again, thank you so much for your interest in astrology. And maybe in the near future, somewhere, somehow, I would get to meet you and get to know your own astrology journey. That would really excite me. So I'm going to go ahead and close right there. Have a great one, everybody. Namaste.